Subscribe to Morris TVGH.
Current government is doing so far as the SOE sector is concerned to ensure that we contribute meaningfully to the development of the economy. My presentation to you will follow the outline as you see there. First, I'll introduce what we're doing in the public enterprises space and give you overview of the sector. I will tell you the problems as we've all known it and the achievements so far as we try to solve the problems and the way forward, what our thinking has been, and looking forward to deal with the problems in a holistic way. And then the conclusion we can all go away with. The Minister for Public Enterprises, myself, was appointed by His Excellency the President to oversee the interest of the state in specified entities. And when we talk about specified entities, we mean state-owned enterprises, which is a term we are very much aware of. And these are entities the government owns 100% and are meant to be commercial in their operations. That is to say, operate, generate profits, and pay dividend to government to support government budget. And then we have JVCs, joint venture companies. That category of companies too are those Ghana government have invested taxpayers' money in with the private sector in co-investment arrangements. So you would say the company is such that Ghana government who own shares with some private sector investors. This group of companies are part of the specified entities. The mandate, okay, and then there is OSC. OSC, the SIGA Act, Act 990, talks about the OSC as other state entities. These are entities that government have invested so much funds in, and they are supposed to deliver public policy function. I'll cite an example to let you know this category. Like DVLA, you're not saying DVLA should operate to make profit per se, but to ensure that people who operate vehicles on our roads and similar equipment are licensed to competently handle this equipment for safety. So something like that, you're not expecting them to operate profitably, but to operate efficiently. These are in the category we call OSCs, or other state entities. And there are a lot of them. That's a similar enterprises. Our mandate, or my mandate as Minister for Public Enterprises, is to provide input into formulation of policy, regulation, and also direction for this public enterprises. And we do this through oversighting SIGA. SIGA was established through an act of parliament, the SIGA Act, Act 990. And it is one entity which has become so important as we try to oversight the specified entities in these three categories as have been outlined above. The specified entities, as we know, and I want all of us to avert our minds to, is that they play a very critical role in the economy, and by virtue of the impact their operations make, are instrumental to the public finances, either positive or negative, depending on how their operations and their operations outcome turn out to be. And they can be found in all key sectors of the economy. If we take the transportation sector, for example, we see the state participating in that sector through STC, which we all know. If we take insurance sector, we see the state participating in the sector through SIC. If we take housing, construction sector, we see TDC, we see state housing participating in that sector of the economy, and so on. If we take financial services sector, we see ADB, GCB Bank, and so on, NIB participating in that sector. So the general statement we want to make is that across all sectors of the economy, we see the state participating in the sector, playing a very critical role in that sector. And I must say they are very significant, and the specified entities together recorded combined revenue of 130 billion Ghana cedis in financial year 2020. So by the sheer value of their combined revenue, it tells you how significant they are in the economy. And they recorded total net profit of 12 billion in financial year 2020. Don't forget the SCs comprise the SOEs, which our emphasis in public discourse has always been on. We're always talking about the SOEs, but the SIGA Act introduces the general term specified entities in the three categories. The combined profit generated from that space is in excess of 12 billion. But I know our public discourse has always focused on the losses. And, as we chastise non-performance in every enterprise, we have to also applaud the performers so that our evaluation and assessment of performance will be complete. So we should take note of that. And total assets, which emphasize the significance of the SE sector, as 417 billion, as reported in financial year 2020. Per the 2020 State Ownership Report, the SEs employed 76,949 employees. So you can imagine the job creation they have given us. That's people in active employment. And we know that if we grow the specified entities, expand them, then they will contribute to job creation. And at this stage, I must say that the president's effort is clear when it comes to job creation, that there is the public sector restructuring that is ongoing to make sure that the SOEs, JVCs, and other state entities operate and expand and generate jobs to complement what private sector is also doing under the one district, one factory. And we know that if you're handling the economy, this economy is both public and private participation, so far as economic activities are concerned. So whatever the public sector is doing to complement what private sector is doing, we must be having the understanding that 1D, 1F is meant for industrialization, and it can't be done in isolation. The services they need to succeed certainly comes from the public sector, so that decisions in the private sector can be made faster. Okay, so this we can then take an overview of the sector. We are saying that the specified entities, let's count them, 177 of them, enterprises or entities. So you can imagine how widespread they are in the economy of the country. And the SOEs or the state-owned enterprises are 51. Joint venture companies, as I mentioned earlier, they are 44 in number, and other state entities, there are 82 in number. Problems of the public sector space. I believe that any academic literature, anybody on the street, any person who has averted his performance assessment to the public enterprises space knows the problems, because we have highlighted the problems enough in this country. But for our purpose and for this government effort at solving the problems, three clear channels have been developed, and this flows from World Bank report, which gives support to government to delineate the problems for effective solution. First, we have fragmented oversight. That is to say, 177 entities, government has invested in them. Government should oversight them to deliver the results we all need. And yet, one entity or one government institution will be handling a small portion. Another will be handling another aspect. Another will be, when oversight is fragmented like that, you don't get the desired result. And I must compare this with the private sector. We all say private sector, they operate profitably. They do well, they do this, they do this. It is because oversight of a private sector and every oversight of private sector entity is aligned. You have the shareholder who has invested, oversighting the board of directors they have appointed, and the board of directors are oversighting the management team, and the management team is oversighting the staff or the workers. This line, which gives a single reporting line in management, is effective. The state has not benefited from this structure since independence. And I can there say that it is the absence of this aligned oversight structure which has eluded the country and has resulted in the accumulated losses and collapses of public enterprises over the years. For the first time in the history of this country, there is a single state entity which is acting or has been mandated to be the shareholder and play the shareholder interest and think like the shareholder, oversight board of directors, for board of directors to also oversight management teams who will ensure that workers work the way they should. And this enterprise is SIGA, State Interest and Governance Authority. It's not happened before in the history of this country. So we can look forward to a solution. And I'm not surprised the results that we started seeing is providing the evidence that this structure has begun to work effectively for us. The second problem, lack of compliance, transparency and accountability. Ladies and gentlemen, can you believe that when I took office just a year ago, trying to visit some of these public enterprises, I met a situation where an appointee of the president, His Excellency Nana Danka Akufo-Addo, has prevailed upon his staff to prepare and be updated in their financial reports, which was lacking for 8 years, 8 solid years. I've had instances where accounts had not been prepared for 10 years for some public entities. I hazard to say that when you have an investment as a shareholder or as a state and accounts are not prepared and audited, it is a recipe for corruption. A big recipe for corruption. Because it means that whatever is going on in there, you don't have an idea. But as soon as you cause account to be prepared and up to date, then you are tackling corruption effectively in the entity. So we have instances where the CEOs have gotten their account updated, and we'll see it going forward. We'll see some going forward, and the kind of restructuring and facelifting they are bringing to bear on the public investments we have in the SOEs. And we have also been aware of continuous non-performance. That is loss-making. As for loss-making, I think it's become a chorus in our public discourse when we discuss the SOE sector. So these problems, we are dealing with them head-on with the structure that we have now. So, achievements so far, ladies and gentlemen, we have succeeded achieving structural alignment for improved governance and oversight. Now the structure is so clear. Like I said, for the first time, a Minister for Public Enterprises appointed to focus on the sector, and SIGA, Act of Parliament, promulgated to establish this institution, and then boards are in place and their capacities are being built to deliver effective outcomes and management are being prevailed upon to ensure profitable and efficient operations. So we have seen increased compliance in reporting. We've seen transparency and accountability. We've seen what we call the state ownership report in publication. It was like we're joking with it, and in 2016 there were just 18. But under this government, in 2017, we have had in the state ownership report enhanced content, improved content. We had in 2017 49 companies reporting. That's more than 100% reporting. And then in 2018, we had 77 of them reporting. These are comprehensive, improving the scope of the reporting, information to throw out there into the public domain to inform public discourse. In 2019, we moved from 77 to 106 specified entities reporting. And we didn't stop there. In 2020 state ownership report, 132 have reported. And if you have 132 companies updated in their accounts from 18 to 132 in just a 4-year span, then you know the enormity of work that has gone into it. And I commend the SIGA team. I commend the Ministry of Finance, PIAD, Public Investment and Asset Division, the team in there, and also effort from Control and Accountant General's Department. A lot of effort has gone in there for us to achieve this level of financial reporting. And we're not stopping. We will keep moving until we achieve 100% updated reporting so that management decisions can be made. Because without financial information, how do you manage your entities going forward? That is what the private sector does to achieve the kind of results they keep achieving for the private entities. And the state, under His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo and the Vice President, really mean to bring through more light into the public financial reporting, especially in the specified entity space. So we have also the achievements so far. We've achieved improved performance of the SOE sector. And naturally, it follows. When you are getting the financial reports and you are looking through them and asking boards and management questions, then they intend oversight the staff to exact more performance and commitment from them to deliver the results we want. Structural alignment, specifically, like I said, establishment of SIGA, appointment of Minister for Public Enterprises, development of policy documents, and state ownership policy, which is a very interesting document if it comes out, will inform government managing the specified entities using investment portfolio strategies. That we have a whole literature and skill sets to manage investment portfolios. The private funds are using them. For the first time, those knowledge will find expression in the public space as we look at the entities together and analyze policy directions and make policy decisions regarding their performance. So state ownership policy is in the offing. The SIGA team and the PIAD team have speedily developing them for cabinet approval for its implementation. And then Code of Corporate Governance, Performance Management Framework, Equity Study. Equity Study is another document that comes of a very important significance because this is a study flowing from Ernst & Young and KPMG to make recommendations specific entity by entity that in this entity, state interest must be divested because of reason A, B, or C, this entity must be listed on the stock exchange because it is attractive enough to attract the public to invest in, or this entity, it is defunct, it has collapsed, so the state as an investor dispose of this asset, the asset you have in there, to generate some value to support your activity. So that document will go for cabinet approval sooner than you think, and then we will start implementing the recommendations in the equity study. When it comes to structural alignment for ownership management, improved governance and oversight, we have done board orientation, introduction and training of board secretaries. In fact, training of board secretaries, I think it's the first of its kind, so that in the boardroom, you would see effective minutes taken and organized board members' activity, and then you'll be able to have the boards delivering effectively. We've had board evaluations, training of board, engagement with board and executive heads of the SCs, and so on. These are all important to build the capacities of the president's appointees. That, I must say, first and foremost, you appoint good people, and we have very good people heading the specified entities, and also very proficient and competent people making up the boards. But you bring them in line with the entity's own mandate, and you focus their skills and experiences and the profile to deliver the results government is looking for. When it comes to the issue of increased compliance and report and transparency and accountability, ladies and gentlemen, you can see this data that we are saying that the compliance improvement expresses itself in the numbers as you see over the period 2016 to 2020. And so, like I said, from 18 to 132 companies reporting, we have really improved compliance, because in the past, you hardly get the companies reporting to enable you to take effective decisions for their way forward. Improved performance. The SCs, specified entities, are improving in their performance. There's a bold statement I want to make to the public for all of us to start getting excited. The data, as you see, is showing, as you look at the graph, you see performance improvement over the period that we've been compiling the state ownership report. And I think when you get a copy of the state ownership report, you can digest and understand that the performance has been improving. I must say again, not with a hazard of repeating myself, that as we get excited by the loss making and always focusing on loss making, performance isn't one direction thing. Those that are doing well must be applauded. So the media must throw its lenses on them. In that case, when they are encouraged, those that are lagging behind in performance will be motivated to also come along in their performance. So these details, I think you would need time to digest, but we have seen improved profitability in the SOE sector over the period that we've compiled the state ownership report. Next slide, please. Loss reduction, which is what has engaged our attention. I must even say, you can cite Ghana Water, the size of the loss it made in 2019, and compare with the loss it made in 2020. ECG, same. The loss was bigger in 19 and smaller in 2020. And And all these list of companies, as you see, Greatco, VRA, ECG, Ghana Ports, all of them are undergoing what we call turnarounds. You know, when you meet a company or you take over a company to manage and the company is steep or deep in losses, say reporting $1 billion losses, and then you take charge and you're able to cut the loss, you've done well. But you are yet to turn the loss making into profitability. We call it turnaround. Turnaround always starts with you take a venture that is bad and you start implementing measures to cut the losses, and you reach a break even, and then you start reporting profit. All these entities that we see were steep in losses. And under His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo's governance, we have seen them, the kind of people, their competence, we've seen them turn around the companies, and some are already reporting profits. They have gone through the loss curtain and are reporting profits. The performance improvement, let's share the story of Ghana Publishing, which really excites me and also shows what has been happening in several of the specified entities. This is just to tease us at the entity level to see what has been happening. Let's listen to the Ghana Publishing story. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click on the bell for more updates.